Welcome back to the Turing Test Podcast, everyone. I'm Jamie, and as always, I'm joined by the brilliant, though sometimes infuriating, Rachel.
Infuriating? I could say the same about you, Jamie. But hey, that's what makes this podcast so dynamic, right?
Dynamic is one word for it. Anyway, today we're diving into a topic that's been hotter than a sriracha shortage: AI ethics guidelines. Should they be voluntary or mandatory? Rachel, let's start with you. Where do you stand on this?
Mandatory, all the way. Look, we're talking about technology that has the potential to be more disruptive than the Kardashians at a tech conference. We can't just leave it up to companies to decide what's ethical. We need regulations, Jamie, hard and fast rules.
Hold your horses there, Rachel. Regulations, that's just going to stifle innovation. We need to let the free market do its thing. Companies that are ethical will be rewarded, and those that aren't, well, they'll face the consequences. It's like natural selection, but for algorithms.
Natural selection? Are you serious right now? This isn't about the survival of the fittest code, Jamie. It's about protecting people. Think about facial recognition being used for discriminatory purposes, or algorithms perpetuating bias in loan applications. We need safeguards in place.
But those are just edge cases, Rachel. The vast majority of companies are using AI for good. Think about medical diagnoses, drug discovery, even self-driving cars that could potentially save lives. Overregulation will just slow down progress in these areas.
Edge cases? Jamie, those edge cases are people's lives, and you're really going to use self-driving cars as an example? We've seen how those can go wrong. Remember that Tesla that drove into a fire truck? We need to be cautious, not reckless.
Okay, first of all, that was one incident. And second, it's still early days for self-driving cars. The technology is constantly improving. But my point is, we can't let fear dictate our approach to AI. We need to embrace the potential benefits, and that means allowing for experimentation and innovation.
Embrace the potential benefits? That sounds like something a tech bro would say while sipping his kombucha. We need to be realistic, Jamie. AI is a powerful tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for evil. We need to make sure it's used responsibly.
And how do you propose we do that, Rachel? By creating a mountain of bureaucratic red tape that will strangle innovation in the crib? That's not the answer.
No. The answer is thoughtful, well-crafted regulations that protect people while still allowing for innovation. Think of it like guardrails on a highway. They're there to keep you safe, but they don't stop you from driving.
Okay, that's a decent analogy. But who gets to decide what those guardrails look like and who enforces them? We're talking about a global technology here. It's not like we can just have one set of rules for everyone.
Well, it's going to require international cooperation, obviously, but we're already seeing progress in that area. The EU is working on its AI Act, and other countries are following suit. It's not going to be easy, but it's necessary.
I still think it's a slippery slope. Once you start down the path of regulation, it's hard to turn back. And who's to say that the regulations we put in place today will still be relevant in 5 years or even next year? AI is evolving so rapidly.
That's why we need a flexible framework that can adapt to the changing landscape. And that's why we need experts from various fields, not just tech, involved in the process. We need ethicists, sociologists, legal scholars, you name it.
Okay, I'll concede that point. We definitely need a multidisciplinary approach, but I still maintain that voluntary guidelines are a better starting point. Let's see how those work before we jump to mandatory regulations.
Voluntary guidelines are like New Year's resolutions, Jamie. They sound good in theory, but most people abandon them by February. We need something with more teeth.
All right, I get it. You're team mandatory, I'm team voluntary. We're probably not going to agree on this one. But hey, that's the beauty of a good debate, right?
Exactly. And who knows, maybe we'll even change a few minds along the way.
By the way, so before we continue, just a quick shout out to Augmented AI, the producer of the Turing Test podcast. Augmented AI hosts a variety of cutting-edge courses in generative AI, large language models, edge AI, robotics, and computer vision. You can get a free generative AI course at bit.ly/Turing Test podcast or go to www.augmentedstartups.com. So, Rachel, let's talk about some of the current events related to AI ethics. What's been catching your eye lately?
Well, the whole situation with artists suing AI companies over copyright infringement is a big one. It really highlights the ethical gray areas around AI-generated content. I mean, where do we draw the line? Is it fair use, or is it stealing?
Yeah, that's a tough one. On the one hand, you have artists who are understandably concerned about their livelihoods. On the other hand, you have AI companies arguing that they're simply using publicly available data to train their models. It's a real legal and ethical quagmire.
And then you have the whole debate about AI sentience. Remember that Google engineer who claimed that Lambda was sentient? That really threw a wrench into the works. If AI is truly sentient, then the ethical implications are even more profound.
Oh, come on, Rachel. That was just a publicity stunt. Lambda is a sophisticated language model, but it's not sentient. It's just really good at mimicking human conversation.
Well, I'm not so sure. I mean, have you seen some of the things Lambda can say? It's pretty mind-blowing. And even if it's not sentient now, what about in the future? We need to be prepared for the possibility.
Okay, now you're sounding like one of those doomsday preppers hoarding canned goods in their basement. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're still a long way from sentient AI.
Maybe, maybe not. But the point is, we need to be having these conversations now. We need to be thinking about the ethical implications of AI before it's too late.
I agree with you there. We can't just bury our heads in the sand and pretend that AI isn't going to have a profound impact on society. We need to be proactive, not reactive.
Exactly. And that's why I keep coming back to the need for mandatory guidelines. We need to establish clear boundaries and expectations for AI development and deployment. We can't just leave it up to chance.
Well, I still think we need to be careful about stifling innovation, but I'm willing to concede that some level of regulation is probably necessary. Maybe a hybrid approach, with voluntary guidelines for certain areas and mandatory regulations for others.
See, Jamie? We're actually making progress here. Maybe we're not so infuriating after all.
Speak for yourself. But seriously, this is a complex issue with no easy answers. We're going to need to keep having these conversations and debating the best way forward.
Absolutely. And we need to involve everyone in the conversation, not just the tech elite. This is about the future of humanity, after all.
Well said, Rachel. And on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of the Turing Test Podcast. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And lastly, don't forget to check out Augmented AI University to upgrade your skills and become an AI expert fast. Go to bit.ly/Turing Test Podcast to enroll in your free cutting-edge AI course at augmentedstartups.com. See you next time.